What if I told you that everything we knew about honor, loyalty, and the North was a lie? What if Lord Eddard Stark, the man known for unshakable integrity, committed the ultimate betrayal not for power, not for vengeance, but for the realm itself? Picture it, the cold winds of Winterfell sweeping over the battlements, the banners of House Stark dancing above thick stone walls, and beneath it all, a secret that could unravel everything. Because in this version of Westeros, Ned Stark makes a choice, a devastating, silent, soul-shattering choice. He does not warn Robert of Cersei's children. He does not claim the throne for Stannis. He does not defend the honor of the North. Instead, he lies, he kneels. He sides with the Lannisters. And it begins the moment Jon Arryn dies. The Raven comes bearing dark words to Winterfell. Ned reads them, jaw tightening, brow furrowing. Catelyn is at his side, but he tells her little. Just that it's from the Queen's hand, a veiled warning cloaked as condolences. It's the same message Lysa tried to scream in her panicked letter. They killed him, Ned. The lion has fangs, but Ned doesn't believe it's just about Robert's children. He sees something deeper, something colder. He spends that night walking the battlements alone, eyes cast toward the horizon, toward the wall, toward the old gods and the winds beyond. And as the wind bites at his skin, he hears the faintest whisper echo through the trees of the godswood. Not words exactly, just a feeling, a weight pressing down. He's never been a man for politics. But war he understands, and war is coming. He doesn't yet know how, but he feels it in his bones. Jon Arryn's death was no accident, and Robert's court is a nest of snakes. Ned knows the realm is a dry forest waiting for a spark, and if it burns, it won't be just the south. It'll consume the north too, Winterfell, his children, the wall. So when Robert arrives with his royal retinue, Ned wears his usual solemnity, but behind his eyes, the calculations have already begun. When he accepts the role of Hand of the King, it is not out of loyalty to his old friend. Not this time. It is necessity. Because if Ned stays in Winterfell, he cannot control the wildfire about to erupt in King's Landing. But if he goes south, he can twist fate from inside the fire. And here's where it gets crazy. As they prepare to leave for King's Landing, Ned pulls Maester Luwin aside. Quiet, private, no one else. He tells Luwin to prepare for the worst, that ravens must be ready to fly north at a moment's notice. He tells Robb that Winterfell is his to rule, not just to hold. And when he says goodbye to Jon Snow at the gates, he almost tells him the truth of his mother. Almost, but not yet, because Ned now holds too many secrets. And for the first time in his life, he adds another by choice. As the royal caravan rides south, Ned speaks little. He watches. He listens. He notices the way Cersei and Jaime whisper to each other with haunted eyes. He sees the way Joffrey flinches when Robert shouts how Tommen hides behind his mother. And he begins to piece it together. This isn't just about incest or stolen thrones. The Lannisters are scared. When they reach King's Landing, Littlefinger begins his game, whispering promises of power and whispers of alliances. But Ned plays along. He pretends to be the same old Ned, honest, slow, too rigid for court, but inside he is quietly maneuvering. The twist? He starts feeding information to Varys, that's right. In this timeline, Ned approaches the spider in the shadows of the Red Keep. He speaks in cryptic phrases, but Varys understands. Ned knows the truth of Cersei's children, but he will not expose it. Not yet. Instead, he asks Varys what he already suspects, that Robert is not fit to rule, that the realm stands on a cliff's edge, and that chaos is a ladder too many are eager to climb. And here's where your brain might break. Ned makes his first true betrayal. He meets Cersei in private. He requests a private audience in the Queen's Solar, where only the fireplace burns and the shadows grow tall. She enters wary, expecting threats, but Ned offers her something else. "I know your secret," he says. Her spine straightens. Her hand moves toward a hidden blade. But Ned raises his hand, not in warning but in surrender. "And I'll protect it." "Wait, what?" Cersei doesn't speak. For a full minute, she studies his face. This isn't a trap. There's no moral outrage. Just a cold, brutal offer. Ned Stark, Warden of the North, Protector of Honor, offers to lie to the king, to shield the Lannisters. In exchange for one thing, stability. If Robert finds out the truth, Ned says, he'll kill your children. He'll start a war. Stannis will take the throne. The realm will tear itself apart before winter even arrives. He pauses. And winter is coming. The silence stretches. Finally, Cersei asks the question only she dares. "And what do you want in return?" Ned answers without hesitation. "The North stays untouched. No southern soldiers march past the Neck. Robb rules in Winterfell. And when the time comes, when winter truly comes, you send everything south has to help the Wall. This isn't mercy. It's calculation. Because Ned has realized something even darker. The real war isn't for the throne. It's for survival. And the only way to win is to keep the realm intact, no matter how much blood it takes." Littlefinger grows suspicious. He starts to see a new side to Ned, one that smiles politely but acts unpredictably. When Robert speaks of killing Daenerys across the sea, Ned doesn't argue this time. He nods, because he knows that arguing is pointless. He needs to be in Cersei's good graces. He needs to appear loyal. So he lets Robert do what he wants. For now. And here comes the real kicker. Ned sends a raven to Stannis, but not to warn him. To threaten him. In the dead of night, with no sigil seal, just Stark ink, the message is clear. Stay in Dragonstone. Do not act. Do not move, or the realm burns and you burn with it. Stannis reads it with fury, but he understands. For now he waits. Meanwhile, Ned begins quietly moving money. He arranges for grain to be shipped north. He hires blacksmiths in the Reach to send spare blades to the Wall. He uses Littlefinger's accounts, claiming it's royal treasury spending. And Littlefinger is too arrogant to notice, yet the rest of the court believes Ned has gone soft. A man brought low by southern wine and gold. But the truth is far colder, because Ned Stark has made the worst choice of his life. He's betrayed his friend Robert. He's betrayed the North. He's betrayed his own honor, all to protect the realm. But here's where it gets insane. Joffrey begins to suspect him. Not out of brilliance, but because of fear. The boy sees the way his mother and Ned whisper behind closed doors. He hears his father muttering about traitors. And then one night, Jaime Lannister stumbles upon something he shouldn't. He overhears Ned and Varys discussing the Wall. He hears the words, White Walkers and Long Night. And for the first time in years, Jaime remembers the Mad King's last words, burn them all. He realizes the threat was never just the throne. And for the first time, Jaime starts to think Ned Stark might be right. But it's already too late, because Robert Baratheon is about to die, not from Cersei. Not from Bors, from betrayal, and this time, it's Ned who lets it happen. It's Ned who lets it happen. 3 days later, the king lies dying. His skin is pale, his breath shallow, and the sour stench of wine and blood fills the royal chambers. Cersei stands beside the bed, her face blank. Renly paces like a nervous hound. And Ned? He says nothing. He watches. He waits, because this time he knew the hunt would happen. He knew Robert would drink too deeply, ride too fast, and face a boar alone. He didn't stop it. He let it happen, not with joy, not with malice, just cold calculation. The king was a crumbling wall, and Ned let him fall, and the realm is already shifting. Varys stands in the corner, quiet as a grave, watching the cracks deepen. He doesn't speak until the others leave, and then it's only a whisper. You let him die. Ned doesn't flinch. He would have burned the realm chasing shadows. Varys nods slowly. No judgment, just understanding. They are past honor now, past morality. Only strategy remains. But here's where the next twist hits. Ned doesn't name Stannis in Robert's will. Instead, he drafts a second will, unsigned, hidden, and falsifies the original. Instead of my rightful heir, he has it say, my son Joffrey. It's a lie, a treasonous, deliberate lie. But to expose the truth would start a war. And for the realm to survive, war must wait. Wait. What? That's right. Ned Stark now protects Joffrey's claim, not because he believes in the boy, but because Joffrey is a pawn, a child puppet keeping the peace while Ned pulls strings behind the curtain. He delivers the document with cold hands to the Queen. She reads it, eyes narrowing, and realizes the depth of Ned's betrayal, not to her, but to himself. He has become everything he once despised, and now she owes him everything. When Robert dies, the bells toll and all of King's Landing sinks into mourning. But behind the veils of grief, a quiet pact forms. Cersei nods to Ned at the funeral. A silent agreement. The game has changed, and Sansa, sweet, innocent Sansa, is caught in the center. Joffrey is crowned. The North watches with narrowed eyes, and the Vale grows restless. Stannis rages on Dragonstone, and in Winterfell Robb receives no raven, no warning, only silence, a silence that grows louder with every passing day, because Ned hasn't written home, not once. He can't. If the North learns what he's done, they'll rise. And if they rise, the fragile peace shatters. So he holds the line, even if it costs him his family's trust, and that price comes quickly. Arya grows suspicious. She watches the court from shadows, sees her father speaking to Varys in whispers, sees him walking with the Queen at night. She confronts him one evening in the Godswood. "You're not yourself," she says. And Ned, for once, has no answer. He kneels before her, placing his hands on her shoulders. Sometimes, to protect the realm, we must do things that feel like betrayal. But what if they are betrayal? He doesn't respond, just holds her a little tighter. She slips from his grasp and doesn't look back. Tension in the Red Keep coils like a crossbow string. Littlefinger is the first to draw blood. He approaches Cersei. "Lord Stark has changed," he says, "and not for the better. He plots something, I know it." But Cersei smirks. He's finally learned how to play the game. Littlefinger narrows his eyes. Or maybe he's playing a deeper one. And he's not wrong. Because while the South believes Ned is kneeling, the truth is more twisted. He's preparing the North in secret, through smugglers, quiet letters, merchants loyal to House Stark. He's stockpiling grain, arms, whispering of winter. He's manipulating King's Landing into thinking peace reigns, while preparing for war that must come. And across the sea, Daenerys still lives. When Ned learns of the failed assassination attempt, he doesn't rage. He doesn't storm into the throne room. He quietly meets with Varys and asks only one question. Does she still live? Varys nods. Good, Ned replies. The realm will need her soon. What? You heard that right? In this version of the story, Ned Stark sees Daenerys not as a threat, but a solution. He doesn't trust Stannis. He knows Renly is too vain, but a Targaryen, queen with dragons? That might be the fire that holds back the cold. And so behind the scenes he begins laying the groundwork. He speaks to Illyrio, offers gold, arranges for a cease in attempts on her life, and tells Varys to let the girl grow stronger, let her believe the realm is lost. Because when the long night falls, she will be needed, not as a usurper but as a savior. Back in King's Landing, cracks begin to show. Joffrey grows crueler by the day. Sansa tries to calm him but fails. The court grows uneasy. When Joffrey orders a peasant's tongue cut out for mocking his walk, Ned says nothing. His silence is deafening. And when Arya disappears for 3 days into the flea-bottom streets, no one sees Ned panic. But Varys finds her and delivers her back with a warning. You are playing with fire, Lord Stark. She is not a pawn. And Ned answers, no, she's the last piece. Because he has plans for Arya. Dark, dangerous plans. He starts sending her to the blacksmith, to the guards, to train. Quietly, privately. He tells her the world she knows is dying. That she must become something else. She thinks he means a warrior. But he means something darker. Because in this world, Arya Stark is being shaped to become the blade in the dark. A faceless threat for faceless enemies. A girl who can kill for the good of the realm without asking why. Meanwhile, Catelyn rides to King's Landing against his orders. When she arrives and hears whispers of Ned's alliances with Cersei, she confronts him in the Hands Tower. What are you doing? She hisses. You swore you'd protect our children. You swore. I am, he says. You just don't like how. Catelyn slaps him, not out of anger but heartbreak. You've become one of them. He nods. I had to. Their marriage fractures in that moment, and that fracture echoes all the way to Winterfell, where Robb begins calling bannermen behind closed doors. Not to rebel, not yet, but to prepare, because if his father has truly fallen, then the North must be ready to rise, and Ned knows it, which is why he sends one final message, cryptic, unsigned, sealed in wax with no sigil, to the Night's Watch. It reads, They are coming, steal your walls. Trust no Southron banners. If I fall, hold the line. The message reaches Castle Black, and Jon Snow reads it, and everything changes, because Jon has felt something too. A coldness in the woods, A silence in the air. And now with Ned's message he starts to see the truth. The war is not between lions and wolves. It's between the living and the dead. And the only man trying to stop it is the one the world is about to call a traitor. Because here's how part 2 ends. Joffrey orders a man executed, an innocent, for sport. Ned steps forward, not to stop it, but to do it himself. He draws the sword and brings it down. The crowd gasps, even Cersei blinks, and Ned Stark, the man of honor, turns to the people and says, "This is the price of peace." And in the crowd someone spits at him. The North turns its back, the South mocks him, and Ned Stark walks away, because honor died with Robert. And now only survival remains. King's Landing stinks of fear. The scent lingers in every alley, every corridor of the Red Keep, and especially in the whispers that bounce off the stone walls. Whispers of the Hand who has lost his honor, the Northern Lord who kneels too easily, the Stark who swings a sword for a bastard king. Ned feels their eyes on him, not just from behind goblets at court, but from his own household. Septa Mordane no longer bows as low. Sansa barely speaks to him. Arya avoids him altogether. Even his guards hesitate when he gives an order now, unsure whether the man they're following is still a Stark at all, or just another Lannister pawn. And yet, Ned remains still, not because he's numb, but because stillness is his weapon now. The game moves fast, but he's learned that if you stand long enough, the truth eventually comes to you. But not today. Today, chaos comes first. Word arrives that Renly Baratheon has fled the city under cover of darkness. His banners are headed for Highgarden. Not alone, he carries a marriage proposal in his saddlebag. Margaery Tyrell. A union of beauty and ambition, a direct challenge to the Lannisters. And Ned lets it happen. He could have stopped it. He could have had Renly arrested the moment the news reached his ears. But he didn't, because if Renly rises against the Lannisters, it splits the southern power. It keeps them busy. And Ned Stark, the traitor of the North, needs them distracted, because now he begins the second phase of his plan. He meets with Grand Maester Pycelle in private, under the guise of seeking healing herbs for his ailing nerves. Instead, he studies the man, watches the way he fumbles for scrolls, watches the twitch in his eye when Daenerys Targaryen's name is mentioned. Pycelle is a Lannister servant, bought and paid for, but he's also slow, predictable, and arrogant. Ned uses him. "Tell the Queen," he says quietly, "that Daenerys has been taken care of." Pycelle smiles, and within the hour, a raven is sent to Casterly Rock, but that raven never leaves the city, because Varys intercepts it. Under Ned's instruction, Daenerys lives, and now she begins to matter. Meanwhile, in the north, silence becomes unrest. Robb receives no clear orders from his father, only odd-coded messages buried in merchant transactions and traveling minstrels. Winter must be prepared. The true war comes not from the crown, but from the cold. Trust the wall. Maester Luwin doesn't understand, but Robb does. He gathers bannermen under the pretense of drills, strengthens patrols on the King's Road, sends word to the Umbers, the Karstarks, even the reluctant Manderleys, and Catelyn. She returns to Winterfell broken. When she walks into the Great Hall, she doesn't greet her son like a mother. She greets him like a queen might greet a general. "Your father is gone," she says simply. "Not dead, but lost. He's not ours anymore," Robb nods. "But the worst part?" He agrees because the North remembers, and they remember who Ned Stark used to be. In King's Landing, Littlefinger makes his move. He corners Ned in the gardens beneath the Tower of the Hand, fake smile carved across his face. "You've become flexible," he says. "I've become effective," Ned replies, voice colder than ice. Peter tilts his head. "There's a difference between playing the game and being devoured by it." Ned doesn't respond, so Littlefinger adds, "You're not the only one with secrets, you know," and then he walks away. That night, a raven is loosed from Peter's quarters. No sigil, no seal, but it flies fast. Faster than any other message that week. And its destination. Dragonstone, because Peter Baelish wants chaos. He wants Stannis to rise. The next morning, the Crown receives word. Stannis has declared himself king. The fire is lit. Now the storm begins. Cersei storms into Ned's chambers, fury in her eyes. "You said you were containing this." Ned, calm as ever, answers, "You trusted Littlefinger. That was your mistake." She slaps him. He takes it. Because right now he needs her afraid, and she is. Stannis is building ships. Renly is raising an army in the Reach. The Riverlands are burning after Gregor Clegane's raids. And the north remains quiet but tense. The realm is breaking, and in the middle of it all stands Eddard Stark, quietly feeding whispers, extinguishing fires, fueling others. No longer a man of honor, now a man of cold, brutal necessity. But what no one knows is what he plans next, because Ned finally sends a raven north to Jon. He writes it in a cipher only the boy would understand, a riddle based on stories he told him as a child. Jon reads it by candlelight in castle. Black, and the message becomes clear. Leave the wall, ride south. Winterfell must not fall. You are not as snow. Jon's heart stops. Not as snow? He reads the letter again. Again, he's not dreaming. It's real. His father, no, his uncle, has just shattered the only truth he ever knew. And not just that, he's given him orders, treasonous orders to abandon the watch. But Jon listens because deep down he knows the truth. He's seen what's coming in the woods. He's heard the things that howl beyond the Frostfangs. And he knows that this war, the crown, the thrones, the banners, it's all meaningless compared to the shadow approaching. He leaves that night silent and alone. Meanwhile, Arya begins her transformation. Ned introduces her to a man named Jaqen H'ghar, captured in the dungeons, rotting away, faceless and strange. He tells Arya the man has skills. Skills she must learn. She doesn't ask questions. She listens and begins training in secret. Because Arya Stark is no longer just a child. She is a blade being sharpened. Sansa, on the other hand, is spiraling. Joffrey's cruelty grows. He cuts her hair, demands she wear Lannister red, forces her to kneel before Cersei in court. Ned watches it all and does nothing. To everyone else he looks defeated, but inside he is memorizing every insult, every wound, because he is preparing something darker. And it begins when he meets Tyrion, not in open court, not with guards or gold cloaks, but in the crypts beneath the Red Keep, where no eyes can follow. Tyrion meets him with a lantern and a smirk. This is an odd place for a chat. Lord Stark, I need a man with vision, Ned says. Not loyalty. Not honor, vision. Tyrion raises an eyebrow. Are you finally done preaching about nobility? I buried nobility with my king. Tyrion smiles. All right then. What do you want? And Ned tells him, I want a war that ends quickly. A war that leaves one ruler, one realm, and enough left alive to face what's coming next. And what is coming? Ned looks into the dark. Death. Tyrion is quiet for a moment. Then he nods. All right, let's plan your little apocalypse. And from that moment, an unlikely alliance begins, because Tyrion knows how to manipulate men, and Ned knows how to command them, and both of them know they're running out of time. Back in Winterfell, Jon arrives under the cover of snow. Robb meets him in the Godswood. You left the wall, he asks. I had to. Robb studies his brother. But this isn't the same boy who left for the Night's Watch. This is a man who's seen monsters. And Jon for the first time tells Robb everything. The White Walkers, the dead things in the snow, the message from Ned, and the truth about his birth. Robb doesn't believe it at first, but then he looks in Jon's eyes and he sees the truth. They ride to the crypts that night. Light torches kneel before Lyanna Stark's tomb, and in silence, they finally understand what Ned did. He lied, he betrayed them, to protect the realm, but it's not enough because while Ned plays his silent war in the south, in the far, frozen lands beyond the wall, the dead begin to march. Lands beyond the wall, the dead begin to march. Winter has always been a warning, but now it's a promise, and it has begun to keep it. Far beyond the wall, where sunlight rarely touches the snow and the cold is more curse than weather, the Night King walks again. His army swells not through battle but through silence. Through the stillness after a patrol fails to return. Through a village found with doors wide open, fires still warm and no one left breathing. Each death is a new soldier. Each corpse a whisper of the end. But in the south no one hears it because they're too busy playing games. King's Landing is a nest of lies now. Every noble speaks in half-truths. Every servant listens twice. And in the center of it all, Eddard Stark continues to play the role of traitor, to save the realm from itself. But cracks are forming. Real ones. Cracks that blood can slip through. The first comes from Renly. The man has married Margaery Tyrell in secret, and with the full force of Highgarden behind him, he declares himself King of Westeros, not as Robert's brother, but as the realm's choice. He calls Stannis rigid, Ned weak, and Joffrey a bastard in all but name. It's war. And it's exactly what Ned was hoping to delay. Cersei demands retaliation. She paces the small council chamber like a lioness sniffing blood. Her fingers dig into the wood of the table. "We crush him now," she snarls, "or we lose everything." But Ned, calm as ever, simply says, "If we move against Renly, Stannis strikes Dragonstone. The Riverlands burn. And then winter comes. Let them bleed each other." Tyrion backs him. "Divide and delay. Let them fight. Let them weaken." "We pick up what's left," Cersei glares. "You're all cowards." "No," Ned replies softly. "We're survivors." "Wait, what?" Ned Stark, the man who once marched to war for honor, is now advocating inaction, manipulation, and bloodshed by omission, letting southern armies destroy themselves so he can buy time for the real threat, the Long Night. But time is a cruel currency, and in Winterfell, it's already running short. Jon Snow now stands at Robb's side, no longer the bastard in the shadows, but a Stark by truth, though not by name. Only Robb knows the secret, and Jon has sworn to keep it that way until the war is won, because he's seen the real enemy. And names don't matter to the dead. Together they begin preparing Winterfell, not for rebellion, not for southern conquest, but for siege. Real siege, the kind that brings no banners, no demands, just death on silent feet. Jon orders dragonglass forged. Robb strengthens the walls. They send ravens to the other houses, but most don't understand. Only one does. The old bear, Jorah Mormont, receives the warning and moves quickly. The Night's Watch begins pulling back from their ranging. Wildlings speak of white shadows, and when the first patrol goes missing near the fist of the first men, Mormont doesn't wait for proof. He sends out his own raven to Ned. Ned reads the letter under candlelight, alone. He doesn't tremble. He doesn't speak, he just sets it down and begins writing 10 more, one to each great house. The contents are simple but terrifying. They are real. They are coming. If we don't unite, we die. Eddard Stark. But here's the problem, no one believes him. In Riverrun, Edmure laughs at the letter. The cold's finally broken his head. In the Eyrie, Lysa Arryn burns it without reading it fully. Even Stannis, stiff and rigid, sneers, "A child's tale to distract from the throne." Only one reply returns from Dorne, from Oberyn Martell, and it says, "If the North falls, the realm follows." The snake will listen. Ned pockets the letter and sends Varys to arrange a quiet meeting, a true alliance hidden in shadows. Because if the South won't listen to warnings, then it must be protected from itself. But Cersei has had enough. She's begun suspecting Ned again. The secrecy, the midnight ravens, the strange meetings. And when one of her spies catches Arya slipping into the blacksmith's quarters with a blade and no supervision, she puts the pieces together. She storms into Ned's solar. "You're building an army." Ned turns slowly. "I'm building a future. For who?" She spits. "The North?" "Your bastard son. That Targaryen girl across the sea." Ned doesn't deny it. He looks her dead in the eye and says, "For the living." And that's when Cersei decides Ned Stark must die. But not yet. Killing him outright would spark rebellion. It would cost her Sansa. It would make him a martyr, so she does something worse. She undermines him. She tells the court that Ned has gone mad. That grief for Robert has twisted his mind, that he's sending ravens to enemies, building secret armies, training his daughter as a killer. And to prove it, she releases one name, Jon Snow, and suddenly the court knows. Ned's bastard is no bastard. He's a Targaryen, a threat. Acclaim, the city explodes, whispers turn into roars. The true heir? Stark has betrayed the crown. He hides dragon spawn in the north. Sansa is dragged into court, questioned. She knows nothing. But her silence is spun into complicity. Arya vanishes, and the Gold Cloaks are ordered to arrest Ned Stark. He doesn't resist. He walks into the throne room and kneels, not in submission, but in exhaustion. His eyes scan the crowd. He sees Sansa crying, sees Joffrey's smug grin, sees Tyrion look away, and then Cersei steps forward. "Lord Eddard Stark, you are accused of high treason, of harboring the enemy, of conspiring against the crown. What say you?" And here comes the moment we never expected. Ned looks up at the Iron Throne, and he laughs, a soft, hollow laugh that echoes through the hall. "I've betrayed my name," he says. "My honor, my family. I've lied, conspired, and killed with silence. He stands, but not to take your throne, he turns to the court, but to keep you all alive. And then, he turns to Joffrey, you sit there thinking you've won, but your crown means nothing when the snow falls to Cersei. You think me broken, but I've built something you can't destroy. And then to the people, I am not your hand, I am not your ally. I am not your enemy. I'm your last warning, and then he says it. Winter is here, the throne room erupts. Some laugh. Some scream. Some stare, too terrified to move. Cersei, trembling, gives the order. Take him. Ned doesn't fight. Doesn't plead, because the next part of the plan has already begun. That night Arya slips into the cells, not to free him, to take his message. She's ready, Ned whispers. Arya nods once and disappears. And by morning, Ned Stark is gone, not dead, not executed, vanished, and the world begins to burn because the real war is no longer at the gates, it's already inside. Longer at the gates, it's already inside. The Raven never leaves King's Landing. By dawn, every lord in Westeros is whispering the same thing. Eddard Stark has vanished. No trial, no execution, no body. Only the faint scent of burning parchment in his cell and the chilling silence that follows it. Some say the gold cloaks smuggled him out. Others claim Varys used black sorcery to make him disappear. A few, drunk and foolish, mutter that the North remembers, and the old gods reached down and reclaimed their son. But the truth? Ned Stark vanished himself. With the help of Arya, 2 trusted men of the Night's Watch, and 1 faceless man who owed a debt, he left the cell hours before the Queen's execution order arrived. No one saw him leave. No one heard the chains fall. But by the time the guards returned, all that remained was a black feather and a message scratched in blood against the stone. He warned you. Wait. What? Eddard Stark, the man once known for unbreakable honor, has now become the realm's greatest ghost. A man no longer bound by title, house, or loyalty. Just one mission: unite the living or all will die. Cersei loses control immediately. The court erupts in chaos. Joffrey screams for executions. Sansa is confined to her chambers, her status as political hostage, now the only thing keeping her alive. Arya, missing. Rumors swirl that she escaped dressed as a stable boy. The Queen orders every sewer searched, every ship watched, every blacksmith interrogated, and yet no sign, because Arya Stark is gone, on the road north, with Jaqen Hagar at her side. Not as herself, but as someone else entirely. Ned's plan was simple: disappear, disrupt, prepare, return, but the execution? Ruthless, calculated, stark. As the crown flails in confusion, ravens fly. Robb receives one first. It arrives at night. No sigil, no seal, just words carved into leather, scorched along the edge. You must rise now, not for vengeance, not for pride. Raise the North for survival. He reads it alone, by torchlight. And when the final word sinks into his blood, he doesn't wait. He calls the banners, but not as a boy going to war. He summons them not to march south, but to fortify the North. No more soldiers leaving Winterfell, Robb tells his bannermen. We build. We prepare. We make this land unbreakable. Some protest. The Karstarks call for Lannister blood. The Umbers demand vengeance. But Robb holds fast. He shows them another message, this one written in Old Tongue. A scrap from Castle Black, passed through 3 hands and delivered at great risk. It reads, "The dead do not wait for politics. They march." And that silences everyone. Meanwhile, Jon Snow rides alone, cloaked, carrying word of the true threat to every house that might listen. He arrives first at the Vale, seeking Lysa Arryn. She refuses to see him, so he scales the bloody gate, storms into the court, and throws a frozen hand, severed, twitching, still half alive, onto her marble floor. "My watch is ended," Jon says. "The North is not your enemy. The dead are," Lysa vomits. Her court gasps. The hand writhes once, then dies, and the Vale begins to listen. Jon leaves behind 2 men, a raven, and a warning. Then he rides for the Riverlands. Back in King's Landing, Tyrion begins to understand. He sips wine and reads the latest reports. White walkers near the Fist of the First Men. Wildling villages found empty. Castle Black sending no ravens. He connects the dots, and the picture is terrifying. The Game of Thrones is a distraction. Ned Stark knew it, and Tyrion now believes it, so he acts. He begins siphoning gold from the treasury. not to bribe lords, not to build armies, but to forge dragon-glass weapons, quietly, secretly, through merchants in Essos. He does it under the guise of trade tariffs. No one notices, except Varys. "You're helping him," the spider whispers in the dark. "I'm helping me stay alive," Tyrion replies. "And Varys?" He smiles, because the realm finally has more than one spider spinning toward survival. Meanwhile, in Essos, Daenerys receives a letter, delivered by a beggar, paid by a cloaked man with eyes like winter. She unfolds it slowly. The parchment is northern, smells of snow, reads like prophecy. "Do not come for the throne. Come for the world." The cold marches. Fire must answer. Eddard Stark. She stares at it for hours. Ser Jorah says it's a trap. But Daenerys feels something deeper. A pull. Not toward vengeance, toward destiny. And for the first time, she looks west not as a conqueror but as a protector. The dragons stir. Back in the north, the wall is no longer safe. White Walkers test its defenses. The winds howl differently. And when Castle Black's outer scouts vanish, the Night's Watch begins evacuating its outer towers, but not fast enough because the dead have found a weakness, and they exploit it. Eastwatch by the sea falls first. No warning. No survivors, just silence, and then blue fire. A frozen storm that sweeps from the cliffs into the sea. Ice that moves like flame, and something in the center. Not just walkers, something riding above them, wings, scales. A creature with eyes like pale sapphire. A dragon. What? The Night King has a dragon, stolen from the far north, taken in silence, born of death, and now it flies, south toward the wall, toward Winterfell. Back in the crypts of Winterfell, Robb receives the word. Jon sends it via Raven, sealed with a feather. Eastwatch is gone. They fly now. Robb turns to Catelyn. They come with wings, Catelyn whispers the only thing she can think of. What have we done? But it's too late for regret, because across the sea, Daenerys Targaryen stands aboard a ship bound for Westeros. The dragons fly above her. She clutches Ned's letter like scripture and whispers, "I'm coming." In King's Landing, Tyrion stares at the sky, waiting, praying the right fire arrives before the wrong one does. And in the shadows, Sansa watches her jailer sleep slips, a knife from his belt, and prepares to carve her own path. Then the realm is broken, but somewhere in the dark, Eddard Stark lives, watching, waiting, guiding, pieces like a man with no name, and the board is almost full, the dead. March, the dragons fly, the fire wakes. Winter is no longer coming, winter is here. No longer coming, winter is here. The snow doesn't fall anymore. It crashes. Each flake is a dagger. Each gust of wind sounds like the shriek of 1,000 dead voices. The air is thicker, colder, wrong, like it was never meant to be breathed by the living. The sky over the wall is no longer grey. It's white, blinding, endless, and through it comes the sound no one expected to hear. Wings, not the beat of birds, but something heavier, colder, more ancient. Eastwatch has fallen. That truth now echoes through every corner of the realm. But it's no longer a warning. It's a death sentence written in frost. The Night King rides now above the world, atop an undead dragon whose blue fire melts stone and freezes flesh in the same breath. The creature's roars are unnatural, like metal scraping against ice. Its name is lost to time, but its purpose is clear: extinction. Winterfell becomes the last hope, and Robb Stark feels the weight of it with every breath. The Northern Lords crowd the Great Hall. Every name that once pledged to follow the Starks is now seated at the long tables, but not with pride. With fear, real skin-prickling fear. The Karstarks ask why no one marches south. The Umbers demand retaliation for the death of Eastwatch. The Manderleys speak of retreating to White Harbor, taking ships and fleeing to Essos. And Robb listens. Then stands. My father gave up everything to keep this realm alive. He lied, he knelt. He disappeared. All so we could see this moment. He slams a fist into the table. We're not fighting for a throne. We're fighting for dawn. The hall goes silent. We hold Winterfell, Robb says, until Daenerys comes. Until fire meets ice. Wait, what? Yes, Robb Stark, once heir to Winterfell, once boy king of the North, now prepares for the final stand. Not against Lannisters, not against Baratheons, but against Oblivion, and he's not alone. Jon returns days later, riding hard, face pale, eyes older. He brings news no one is ready for. The wall is gone, the words hang like death. Jon tells them everything. How the Night King flew over the wall, shattering Eastwatch with one breath. How the dead poured through the breach like a frozen tide. How Tormund and Beric Dondarrion tried to hold the pass and never returned. How the first true war has already begun. Arya returns that same night. She slips past the guards like smoke, steps into the hall during the war council without a sound. She says nothing until Jon notices her. Then she lifts her chin and says, "It's worse than you think." She speaks of the faceless men, of what death looks like when it doesn't walk, but spreads. She tells them the Night King isn't a soldier. He's a force. Storm-wearing skin. Jon nods. They're not ready. No one is. But then the horns sound from the watchtowers, not one blast. Not 2, 3, and that means one thing. Visitors, but not the dead dragon's Daenerys. Targaryen arrives at Winterfell not as a queen, but as a savior. She lands first, her feet touching northern snow for the first time. Drogon and Rhaegal circle above, the heat from their bellies melting the frost below. The northern lords reach for their swords out of habit, but Robb raises a hand. "She's not our enemy," he says. "She's the reason we might live." Daenerys meets Jon first. They don't embrace. They don't speak of love. They speak only of battle. She shows him the third saddle, empty now. Viserion is gone, taken. Jon closes his eyes, jaw clenched. "Then we burn him." But Arya interrupts. "No, we kill the rider." Daenerys' eyes narrow. "And how do you plan to get close to the Night King?" Arya looks to Jon, then to Robb. "I don't." He does. "What?" Robb Stark stares at her. Jon steps forward. "He's not ready." Arya walks closer. "Neither were you." And so it begins. The great plan, one final gamble. Because Winterfell cannot hold forever, even with dragons. Even with the North united. The dead will keep coming, endless, relentless, tireless. So the Starks do what no one expects. They take the fight north, again. But this time, not to kill the dead, to kill the one leading them. Ned's last message, buried in Arya's mind, is repeated now aloud. "You cannot fight the storm. You must strike its heart," Jon volunteers. "Daenerys forbids it." Robb agrees. Arya already knew, but in the end it's Jon who goes. And Arya and Theon Greyjoy, redeemed and returned, offering ships to carry them up the coast of the Shivering Sea. And Tyrion, he stays behind, to do what he does best, buy time. He stands in the courtyard of Winterfell, instructing archers, smiths, torchbearers, trap engineers. And when someone asks why a Lannister is working so hard to save the North, he simply mutters, "Because I like breathing." The army splits. Daenerys flies Drogon south to try and slow the undead march from behind. Robb takes command of the fortress, and Jon, Arya, Theon, and a handful of the best fighters in Westeros sail into the coldest part of the world. The journey is hell, frozen winds, dead waters near mutinies. But then in the silence north of the Frostfangs, they see it, a great black storm moving with unnatural speed, and inside it, a dragon, a rider, him the Night King, and Jon jumps not into the storm, into destiny. Steel meets ice, fire meets death, and somewhere in the middle of it all, Arya disappears into shadow, her blade hidden, her breath still. Back at Winterfell, the dead arrive. Thousands, tens of thousands. The snow turns red. The walls burn. The sky cracks open with dragonfire and despair. And just when all seems lost, the storm breaks. High above, in the center of death, Jon Snow stands, bloody, broken, but alive, and in his hand, a sword of obsidian buried hilt deep in what used to be a king. The Night King shatters, and the dead fall, all of them all at once, in silence. Finally, the storm is over. Winter ends, but not cleanly, not without loss. Robb lives, but barely. Theon dies. Arya is never seen again, though whispers speak of a shadow walking in Braavos with a northern face. And Ned, he appears only once more, at the gates of Winterfell, weeks after the snow melts, hooded, grey-bearded. He hugs Sansa, whispers, "It's over," then turns to Jon. "You did what I could not." Jon stares at him. "You disappeared." Ned looks away. "I had to stop being a Stark to save the North." He offers Jon something, a scroll. Sealed with ice, Jon opens it. One name written inside, Aegon. Jon tears it in half. "I'm not a Targaryen." "I'm not a king," Ned smiles. "No, you're something better." He walks away, no banners, no glory, just the man who once betrayed the North to save it. And as he vanishes into the woods one last time, the realm begins to rebuild. No throne, no crown, just survivors and stories. One of which, whispered in halls, goes like this: the man who lost everything and saved everyone.